Hi there. My name is Samantha. I am really excited to be speaking today for the Northern Digital Storytelling Festival. I've been reading through all the topics and there is some fantastic topics, speakers, and I really can't wait to get stuck in. But today, empathy and VR. In the next sort of 10, 15 minutes, I'm going to give you a quick introduction to who I am, my background in the immersive technology industry, some thoughts and ideas around combining empathy, VR, and storytelling. And I'll briefly talk about my own 360 film, Anonymous, which I think fits quite nicely into this topic area. I have my contact information on the screen, so you might be able to see it flick at the bottom. So my email address and my Twitter, if you want to get in touch, have a chat, or just want to see what I get up to. Always love to hear from people. It's always nice to just continue the conversation. I've got notes in front of me, so I keep on track because I could talk for hours on this, and I want to keep in time because I know we've not got a lot of time today. So let's jump straight in. So my background in the immersive space. For the past 8 years, I have had the absolute pleasure of working in the immersive industry. I run my own company called Virtual Umbrella alongside my co-founder Bertie. Our business has been supporting those working in the immersive space since 2015. From providing immersive technology for large film festivals to putting headsets on royalty, we've kind of done it all. And many of the services that we provide, main thing really is sort of making sure that immersive experiences, VR, 360, whatever it is showcased properly, is accessible to audiences, and really just here to help the industry grow. And we've been growing alongside it ever since 2015. We also really love working on projects that utilise the technology and create exciting stories and great impact. I am also a VR director myself. I am also the VR and Immersive Experiences programmer for Aesthetica Short Film Festival, which takes place in York. I'm coming into my 3rd year of programming, which is really exciting. It's a lovely opportunity to be on the other side and pull the program together and witness and see all this fantastic content which comes through. And then outside of the immersive world, I am a community champion for Alcohol Change UK. And last year I did a TEDx talk on the topic around alcohol and also bringing in the immersive world into that as well. So before I share some thoughts and ideas on empathy and VR, I wanted to tell you a bit about my 360 film, Anonymous. So as you can imagine, through my day-to-day job, I have the pleasure of watching a lot of content and a lot of different ways of showcasing content through different headsets, tracking, smells, all these additional things. And there have been many pieces that have stuck with me and I still think about today. And those are the experiences that have blended the story and the technology together in a way that I often forget that I'm even wearing a headset sometimes. And that's quite a hard job to do for me when a lot of the time I'm thinking about the tech, figuring out problems and not always concentrating on what I'm watching. I turned to Immersive to create a film that I thought would be the best way to showcase my experience, especially a stigmatized experience. My initial focus for the project was to tell the world about something that had happened. But I never could have imagined the result in people feeling actual empathy towards the project or the way it would evoke change. As a pre-warning for the next couple of minutes, I am going to be talking about alcoholism and the topic of children of alcoholics, just as a pre-warning. For context, the film Anonymous is a 12-minute passive experience on the topic of being a child of an alcoholic. In 2018, I lost my mum to stage 4 liver disease through a lifelong battle with alcohol dependency. Through my grief and loss, I channeled it into a project, a creative project that allowed me to work through my grief. And at the time, I was very lost and angry, and felt very passionately that I needed to make a change in the world. I combined my knowledge of the immersive industry and opened my heart to share a deep secret in hopes I could make a difference. Within the experience, you're sat in like an AA style setup. The room is quite dark, but you will see 5 chairs which are lit up. And with those 5 chairs, and throughout the experience, each chair will be occupied by the 5 stages of grief, depicted as myself. I address the audience, "Hi, Mum," and it's a biographical confession, and I share what it's like to live as a child of an alcoholic, and you'll see me pass through the 5 stages of grief as I speak to my mum. The impact around the film was something I wasn't fully prepared for, and mainly because my focus had just been making the film, putting it out there, and not really thinking about the next steps. Although I've spent a very long time in the industry, I knew in the back of my head that the way I showed the film and the way that the audience came to the room and the way I spoke to people was going to be really, really important, especially on such a very stigmatized topic, and a topic that could evoke many different emotions and many different reactions. But I didn't know the full extent of that until afterwards, because again, my head was just in, make this film. This is my drive right now. Let's just do it. And through the grief, weirdly, it reminded me of the power of this technology and the power of a story, the power to evoke change. I had many different responses to the film. And like I said before, it was really important for me to try and be there for every single person that watched it. And what was fascinating to me was that where my initial focus was to tell a story, to speak to Mum in this style of a confessional letter, this is what, for me, was my part. That was what I was going through, but I never thought about the other side and how the audience would actually interact with it. Now, when you put the headset on, as I say, you see 5 chairs, but the way that you're positioned from the camera, it is almost as if you are sat in that meeting. And many people told me afterwards, it felt as if they were sat in my mum's shoes, which was something that I didn't even think about. And even now, when I've watched the film back a few times, which for me is very difficult to do, I now see it, and I didn't see it before. And in the past couple of years, there have been moments where I would love to kind of go back to the story, and potentially change aspects of it to, filter in things that have happened in the last couple of years, and see what more information I can give. But yeah, I just think it was a really interesting time for me just to see, in terms of a very different approach to making a film, where my main focus was just the content. It wasn't thinking about other sides of it, the support that was needed. And of course, I provided that support afterwards, when I'd gone through the process of making it. But I just think it's a really interesting one to note. And if you do want to know more about the film, please do get in touch with me, and I'd be more than happy to chat about it or share it with you. It's available. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of just share that one with you. So let's just quickly look into empathy in VR. Can we break it down further? As I said before, this is a huge topic, and I could talk for hours about it, but try and make this as concise as possible. So yeah, this is a huge topic and something that many people in the industry have a lot of opinions on, and I think it's a fascinating area to get into. I think it's important to ask questions around the technology we're using and questions around the stories. For many of you that have been in the industry for a very long time, or even if you just Google VR and empathy, you will most likely find the Chris Mill quote, "VR is the ultimate empathy machine." And I have seen that quote many, many, many times in many presentations and talks over the years. I've seen a lot of additional TED Talks which have kind of repeated the notion. But VR is the ultimate empathy machine, but is it? For me, again, just opinions and ideas, but I will always ask why. Why are we using this technology to tell stories? Are we asking ourselves the questions before we deep dive into making content? A powerful story is the key, not just relying on the technology. Now, of course, yes, I love VR, XR, and all the Rs, but for me, it has to be used in a way that will push and lift these experiences and stories, blend them together in a way that traditional medium doesn't. What is the story you want to tell, and why? Storytelling and presence will take the message further, especially with the technology, but how are we really achieving presence inside these experiences? How do we create self-location? Are you sitting? Are you standing? Are you alone? Are you with anyone else? Is there a body, or can you see your own shadow? I think it's also important to think about what is going on outside the headset. The audience, the reaction, the action to the story. How are people accessing the content? Is it accessible? And remembering the experiences begin the moment you step in the room, not just when you put the headset on. What happens when you take the headset off? What happens next? Now, I've just thrown loads of questions out there, but I think the questions are important because we want the audience to have the best experience. We want them to really experience the content in the way that will evoke a reaction or action depending on the content. It can be truly powerful. But let's keep asking questions, because how else are we going to continue to drive this industry, create fascinating stories, and really deep dive into making stories that blow people away and really get us to question our reality and these ideas. As I said, I could talk for hours on this, but I hope that was just a nice, quick, deep dive and some interesting questions just to think about in terms of what you're making and where you're going next with your projects. Thank you so much for listening to me today. I can't wait to hear all the other speakers. I've already watched a few and they've been absolutely brilliant. Again, if you'd like to get in touch with me, please do. Always happy to talk, and I hope to see you all very soon. Yeah, have a fantastic rest of the day.